Welcome to Exploring the Ozarks, and we're here with John Farmer de la Torre as we talk about everyday Ozarkian.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm back with stories.
Everybody's excited about it, John.
I know. It still sounds like a big giant soccer game, like World Cup.
Kind of does, yeah.
It's great.
That's kind of what it was made for, I think. Not for those kind of games, but for those kind of events where people are cheering you on and
I feel all pepped up, all like jazzed.
Should. Yeah, we'll have to. We're gonna make a new some new music for it, but maybe we'll keep it similar in style.
Right, you might put a little samba in there.
I got samba.
I got some references for you.
Samba,
some really great music.
Give me some references. I'll hand them off to our musician.
Okay. Ooh.
This
place is first class all the way.
I actually have one.
I believe you.
But
in the family.
That's how that works, right?
Of course, always.
As you're starting out. All right. Well, here we are with John. Oh, I'm grabbing this one. I probably shouldn't be. John Farmer de la Torre. He's gonna tell us some stories today in this segment. And just as a quick recap, I mean, we're just talking about everyday Ozarkians, about their stories, about what they're doing around here, interesting facts, interesting people, interesting stories.
That's right. So I'm a journalist, and I go out and I meet people, a documentary journalist, and I believe everyone's got a story to tell. So in between episodes, I go out and then find people who are doing interesting things in the Ozarks. And this week, I'd like to talk about a couple here in Springfield, family actually, who are involved with setting up a brand new venue for the arts. And so not too long ago, there was an art store in National, I believe it's called National Art, and it went out of business. And nowadays, there aren't a lot of places where people can go to get art supplies, at least reused or used or art supplies. And so they set
pretty
up,
rare around here.
Yeah. And so if you're an art teacher, or if you're a young artist, or artists don't have a lot of money a lot of times, at least beginning, those supplies can be expensive. And so if you have art supplies and want to donate them, you can give them to this nonprofit called Arrow Creative Reuse. And so it's a nonprofit model for recycling art supplies, and anything that can be used for arts. And so they set up this nonprofit. It's Sandy and David Baker and the daughter Ree.
I've met them once. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're nice people. If anybody out there's wondering, nice people.
So they have their main art store there. You can donate there, but you can also go and buy, and it's a nonprofit. And it's a great place for art teachers to go in. But what they've done now is they've also gone and they're building, or they're setting up an annex. It's called I want to get the name right here, the Arrow Arts Annex.
Oh, fun. Is this near where their current store is at?
Yes, just a couple blocks away. And you go in there, and it's neat. So before the pandemic, Sandy and David, they used to have what are called house concerts.
Yeah.
In their home. And
it's kind of a big thing around here in Springfield.
Well, it's a thing all over the United States. So what house concerts are is you basically host artists. You can be folk artists or storytellers or poets, and they come to your home and they perform, and you can set up 30 chairs in your living room and invite all your friends. And so there's a network of house concerts across the United States. And if you're a folk artist or poet or storyteller, you can basically travel from Alaska all the way through Maine, going through people's homes, going through this network.
I didn't realize that it was that extensive.
Oh,
That's impressive.
And it's amazing. And so the artists, they like it because they're able to basically kind of travel the country. It's kind of almost like the old days of being a hobo and jump on the train.
But I was thinking like a wandering troubadour, right?
Troubadour,
sure. Yeah,
there you
go around, performing for money and
and so
making a good living doing it. Usually,
and usually with these house concerts, all the money goes to the artist, and so that's how they make a living. So if you're a folk artist playing the mandolin, this is how you would make your living. Jump in your van and go to the next town and stay with a cool family that hosts you, and you perform there in whatever town you're in.
I imagine the internet's probably helped with that quite a bit too.
Lately,
I just think about Airbnb, just things where people are used to booking for homes just randomly out of state, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming this network probably has the same thing.
Well,
where they can set up, online, they can schedule out where they're going. That'd be kind of cool.
It's sort of a thing that the artists know about and that the people who host them know about. David's got a little book, and I asked if he'd let me see it and make pictures, and he said no. So it's pretty valuable knowledge. But there is a network there that the artists know and travel, and so Reed Springs has got a house concert down there, and David Sandy Baker had it at their home, but then the pandemic happened, and of course that shut it down. Now that it looks like we're through that, they're going to use this annex to host, to revitalize, or their house concerts.
Oh, cool.
So this is a place you'll be able to go and see folk artists, and you'll be able to see storytellers and poets. But interestingly, this is also a place where teens can go and perform, like open mic night for teens. It's a non-alcoholic venue.
Yeah.
And so imagine some kids just learning to play guitar, or, they don't know yet how to be a band.
Sure.
They don't have stagecraft yet. This is a place to develop stagecraft. This is a place where people can go and do art and interesting things and see interesting things and see interesting people. And so
that's cool.
This is what they're going to do here. And I think that's a pretty neat thing, a new contribution to the Ozarks.
Yeah.
So that's Sandy and David Baker. It's called the Aero Arts Annex. It's on St. Louis. The website, Aero Creative Reuse. .org. So, please look him up. And he's quite the storyteller, I got to say. I'll let him talk
You'd have to be, I think. Yeah.
Well, I'll let him talk a little bit about this. I got a video package for you guys. So
yeah.
You guys can have a look at that.
So we're going to say right now we're going to cut away to him telling these stories.
Yeah.
At some point in this conversation.
yes.
And cut to him. Yeah.
That's right. So
we're trying new stuff with exploring the Ozarks, and this is one of them. I'm looking forward to it.
So here's
David.
David.
This is why John goes out there and does this.
That's right. David Baker's coming up next, and he's the organizer of the Aero Arts Annex. So we'll listen to him for a bit.
So in conjunction with Aero Creative Reuse, we wanted to teach some art lessons as well as sell art materials, but we don't have the space. So at the current place. So we wanted to have a place where we could teach art lessons, plus have a venue, a multi-event venue. So that's what we have here. We are at the Aero Arts Annex. Aero Creative Reuse is an art and craft supply thrift store. So we accept donated materials, and it could be art materials, craft materials, things like that. And it could be new or partially used or gently used materials. Resell them in the resale shop at deep discount. So what this does is it gets art materials into the hands of the people that need them. And maybe, artists a lot of artists don't have a lot of money. So they need materials. So we're supplying that need. And there's no art shop here in town. I mean, you can go to Michael's and you can go to Hobby Lobby and places like that, but we don't stock the stuff that they have. So a friend of ours, Jeanette Bear from Reed Spring, has the Rock House concert series. It's the Rock House Community for the Arts, and that's in Reed Spring, Missouri. And she's been doing house concerts for many, many years. And she inspired us to do our own. So the other thing that inspired us was there was an old house concert series here in town. It was called the Ozark House Concert Series, and you may remember it. They started out in a house, and then they got bigger, and they moved to where the Vandervoort Hotel is now. There used to be a venue there, and it was called the Vandervoort Center, and that's where the Ozark House Concert Series, because it was a bigger room, they could fit more people in it, and they had a many year run and then they quit doing that, and we wanted to fill a niche. So that's what we did. We reached out to artists that I enjoy, and I just called them, or I contact them online and say, hey, you guys want to play? And people are wanting to play house concerts.
Gotcha. All right, so that was David, and you can hear it's like a pretty interesting project, right?
Yeah.
And he's looking for volunteers or anyone who wants to help out. But this is going to be a real neat thing, bringing in folk artists from all over the country. And so a lot of people are asking, a lot of these artists are, they want to go back on tour, just like all the big artists who are touring right now after the pandemic.
Yeah.
A lot of folks who haven't toured in a couple of years are eager to get out. Same thing for these artists and these storytellers. So they'll be coming to Springfield soon. So, keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on the Aero Arts Annex, because you're going to be able to find a lot of interesting stuff going on there.
Cool. That sounds like a great story.
Yeah.
A great thing to know about, too.
I think so. It's, imagine that, you're you play you're a storyteller who plays the banjo, and you might be a one-man band or a one-woman band, and you can travel, from one side of the country to the other side of the country.
That sounds fascinating to me.
No,
that would be fun to do, I think. Or at least follow somebody around that does it.
Yeah.
Interesting trail of stories right there.
Well, it's kind of a neat thing to be sitting in someone's living room and have that intimacy, experience of sitting with 20 other people or 30, and then you have a person that is a trained storyteller telling stories.
Yeah.
If you haven't done that before, you all really should try it because, here's David Baker again. We have a story.
I'm going to tell you this here story. It's an old Ozark story, and it's a coon hunting story. And it's called The Meanest Man in Arkansas.
Okay.
So it's a coon hunt story, and if you don't know too much about coon hunting, I need an audience.
Yeah, come on over.
So if you don't know too much about coon hunting, then what usually happens is a bunch of guys get together and they brag about who's got the best dog and who's the best coon hunting dog there is and all that. So they go out in the country and they have a campfire there, and they usually have a big pot of beans, like a big Dutch oven, black pot full of beans, right? Then they have a couple of jugs of moonshine laying around.
Yeah.
Okay. So what they do is they let the dogs go, and they just sit there, and they listen to the dogs. So if you got 10 or 15 dogs running through the woods barking at a coon or trying to chase a coon, they can tell when the dogs are chasing the coon, and they can tell because the bark changes when the coon is treed. So 10 or 15 dogs going through the woods going, hoo, 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 hoo. Then when they get to the tree, they tree the coon, and the bark changes. It changes to a chop. Hoo, 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 hoo. Now the guys know, they treed the coon. Now they go through the woods, and they got lights on their helmets, and they got maybe a couple of them have a gun or two, and they tromp through the woods and through anything, the river or wherever they need to go to get to the coon, to the dogs who have treed the coon. The dogs will not leave that tree. The dogs will stay at that tree and bark until someone comes and pulls them off the tree. They hook them up and then they go. And somebody shoots the coon and they go. So then there was a bunch of guys down by West Fork, Arkansas. You might know where that is. It's down the other side of Fayetteville. There's a bunch of coon hunters down there. And so these guys are out in the woods, and they're listening to the dogs bark. Hoo, hoo. They got their beans on the fire, and they got their moonshine. They're drinking a little bit of moonshine. And so all of a sudden they hear this commotion in the weeds, in the bushes and the trees and stuff, and it's the god-awful racket, and there's trees falling down, and its bushes are smashed. So into the light of the fire comes this giant of a man riding a grizzly bear. And he's just a huge man. He's got barbed wire, and he's a barbed wire bridle. It's on this grizzly bear, and he pulls the bear to the stop, and he puts the barbed wire in his teeth, and he jumps on the bear, and he runs over to the fire, and he gets the beans. He gets this big pot of beans, and he just grabs it with his bare hand, and he eats all the beans, and he throws the pot down. And then he goes over and he grabs a big jug of moonshine, and he drinks all that moonshine, and he throws it in the fire, and it blows up. And then he gets the other jug of moonshine, and he drinks that, and he throws that in the fire, and it blows up. And then he's looking at something else to eat. He can't find anything else to eat. He goes, boys, I hate to eat and run, but the meanest man in Arkansas is right behind me.
All right, so we're back, and that was David Baker's story about the meanest man in Arkansas. And apparently it's an old traditional Ozarks story, which I've never heard before, but there are many.
Yeah.
And so this is the sort of storytelling. This is what professional storytelling is like, and it's a great form of entertainment. And so this is going to be over at the Arrows Arts Annex. I mean, all sorts and all storytellers, all kinds of storytellers. The space will also be used for kids' birthday parties, for teaching the arts. Some of the arts can be pretty unusual, and so the Bakers are involved in that stuff too. So I think
that's cool.
Just check it out.
Yeah.
The house concert phenomena was something that interested me. has for quite a while. I was years ago when I was still in grad school for journalism.
Mm-hmm.
I was touring like the towns around here, looking for interesting stuff, and I came across the Rock House in Reed Springs, which the woman there, Jeanette, I hope I don't mess up her name, Jeanette Bear. I haven't talked to her beforehand before doing this segment, but she's there in the town. Everybody knows her. She's well known in the community. She was hosting these house concerts, and it was the first one I ever been to.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I thought it was cool, and I thought it was different. And then it got me thinking, who else is doing interesting, cool stuff? And this ties into what this whole segment is about that we're doing here on an ongoing basis. Is interesting stuff going on in the Ozarks.
Yeah.
And so in this town of a few hundred people is this amazing nexus of people who love arts and people who do art getting together.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me wonder, where else is that going on around the Ozarks, right? And in rural communities across the United States, is there a bohemian network, an Ozark bohemian network in our case, because the local regional case, and does it extend across the country? And what I found was this house concert thing is a national network of sort of bohemians and lovers of bohemians. If you want, we call the artists bohemians, right? And it's sort of an under the radar kind of deal for everyone. The people who watch Taylor Swift and everything else, but which I love pop too, but you
can have different tastes. It's okay.
Different tastes, right?
You can like actual. No, I shouldn't say actual culture. You can like off the beaten path culture as well as pop culture.
That's right, and this is off the beaten path. And and when you drive out, and for people who are from the big cities, they call a lot of the flyover country. They don't really get rural culture.
Nope. Yep.
But there is rural culture, and it isn't all just like hunting and fishing and all that. There's stuff like this. I mean, McClurg, there's like fiddling, down there all the time.
Fiddling's
in fact, I'm going to go down there, and I'll bring that story back.
That'll be great.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of stuff going on. So this concept of the Ozark Bohemian Network, I wanted to find out if it's real and true. And the house concert, phenomena is part of that. Yeah. And the bakers are part of that. And what's going on in Reed Springs is part of that,
That's so cool.
It is. Yeah, there's life out there. And these towns really need that, They do. Growing up.
A lot of these small towns depend on some form of tourism.
Well, I mean, the big thing with a lot of these little towns is what is there to do?
Yeah.
People go home, watch TV, sit on the couch or whatever, and anyway, but that's a big thing is is there some sort of cultural life in little towns? Used to be that little towns that have like fairs. I don't know how much they do that anymore. Some towns still have a fall fair. It's still a big thing
around here. I mean, you go in the fall, especially. I think all this. I wouldn't say super small towns, but any town that has 4,000 to 5,000 people in it usually has a fair around here.
Yeah,
I think that's still a big thing that happens.
And the even smaller towns, what do they have? And so if you have, I really believe if you have cultural stuff going on, cultural programming, people will come out of their homes and you'll have community.
Yeah,
people will hang on. In fact, the story of Reed Springs, going back over there for a second, when they first started that house concert series, and then it kind of moved into the backyard. I hear that neighbors were maybe not so, they didn't know what to think.
Sure.
But now that it's been there a while, people love it. It's one of the biggest events in town. Yeah, exactly. So provide the circus and the people will come. I think that's the moral here. Yeah.
I think it's a great place to end too, because we're approaching that time. So
all right. Well, I'll bring back another story here soon, and see you all later.
Thanks again for listening to Exploring the Ozarks. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our social media channels to help us keep exploring the stories of the Ozarks. If you're looking for more ways to support our show, we have sponsorships for businesses and Patreon for individual supporters. Check the links in the description for more details. Thanks for your support, and keep exploring the Ozarks.